Shalom, this is Rabbi Yehudah Glick from the Shalom Jerusalem Foundation, talking to you from Jerusalem. And we are finally starting to study together the verses of the book of Genesis. We spoke in our previous lesson about the fact that the first 11 chapters of the book of Genesis describe the world, the creation of the world, the beginning of nations, the beginning of humanity. And they are, before God chooses Abraham, they are the introduction to the decision of God to impose a mission and assignment on the people of Israel, the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We also spoke about the fact that those 11 chapters are divided into two: creation and recreation. But today, I want to concentrate on the first major message of Genesis 1. I'm sure there's nobody here who is not familiar with Genesis 1. I think that almost in every book that exists, most people are familiar with the first chapter. Those who had planned to read the entire Bible, maybe they reached Genesis 2, 3, 4. But Genesis 1 they've already read. So I want to look at Genesis 1 from a bird's view. Meaning, again, we're not reading every single verse. Today we're not even going to discuss the structure of the chapter. We just want to concentrate on the message in the whole. So Genesis 1 is a story. It's a story, yeah. It's not just a paragraph. It's not just a chapter with a whole bunch of verses that have nothing to do with each other. Excuse me. It's a story. And when I say it's a story, it has a beginning. Excuse me. It has a beginning, it has an end, and it has a theme that we have to listen to again and again. So, of course, God obviously triumphs in this chapter over void and chaos. In other words, there is no real plot in the story, but I would say that we can definitely say that the story here begins with an exposition telling us that the world had nothing in it, or maybe was in a situation of lack of order, and it concludes with the happy end, the Shabbat. What takes place between the opening and the ending of this story? What takes place between the exposition and the end? Well, the unique plot, of course, is no coincidence. It is the faithful reflection of a chapter that marches along to the refrain that all is good. The first chapter of Genesis paints a harmonious picture, without struggles, without shadows. No gods argue amongst themselves. The sea does not attempt to engulf the divine creator. The sea monsters and serpents are created along with the rest of the animals. Rather than conflict, the most striking feature of the narrative is its flawless organization. This design is evident not only in the actual plot, which presents a reality in which the world is formed out of God's words, but in the very feel, the fabric of the words, and in the special narrative rhythm. The formulaic repetition that shapes the unity of the story, that it was good, there was evening, and there was morning. The division into days, the repetition of it, and God said at the beginning of each day, along with other repetitive elements, they all generate a sense of structure, of order. This conjures the image of a stable, harmonious, natural world as the physical manifestation of divine wisdom. a world which is entirely good. This statement has a profound theological significance. Significance which may be polemical when read against other Mesopotamian creation stories that include rife and tension and battle. But it also has a significance that counters claims that the world is capricious, random, without a rhyme, without reason. In this chapter, natural order is an expression of divine wisdom, which implies that the very fact that the world was created assumes that its creation was a result of free choice. It even implies that it has a purpose. The pristine order of the chapter, which represents world order, has a religious significance. And I think that anybody who reads chapter 1 of Genesis gets the feeling. There's somebody in charge of this whole thing. He created it flawlessly, and he created it with a purpose. He created it at a free will, harmonious, and as a purpose. In our next lesson, I want to deal with the structure. Because if narrative purpose is indeed inherent in the narrative structure, then it's crucial to expose the structure of this chapter. Yet, a careful analysis of the story reveals more than one possible structure. And we will see that the Bible encourages different understandings of reality and the relationship between creations. We will explore a few different divisions of the chapter, which are implied in the text itself, and will focus on the message that Torah is trying to teach us. But before I conclude, I want to tell you that today is also a historical day. I just came back from the Knesset. Today, the Knesset is voting on the Abraham Accord, on the peace between Israel and the Arab nations, the Arab Emirates. And I think it's wonderful to begin studying of Torah right as we hear the sounds of Shalom. And I want to conclude this lesson with the blowing of the shofar. The shofar that announces God's creation of the world, and the shofar of Shalom. Shofar of blessings from Jerusalem to each and every one of you. Shalom and blessings from Jerusalem.